Hello, welcome back to DriveDriverDriven. I'm Humble, and as promised, today we're back on the zero to figure out that oil leak problem we found at the end of last episode. I hope I don't have to, but I'm preparing to pull the front cover, the valve cover, check all the seals, check the main, whatever, the front main seal for the pulley, everything like that. We're really gonna have to dive into the front of the motor, so let me put you in time lapse and we'll get cracking on the car and see what we can see. Coming out of the time lapse, I've got a couple lessons for you. First off, ask any mechanic, shade tree mechanic, master mechanic, papered, not papered, I don't care who, but you're never too smart to do something stupid. I don't care how much experience you have, all of us at some point has done something dumb, and today it was me, or rather I should say a couple of months ago, because you see, our oil leak was something as stupid and as simple as a loose bolt. So this guy right here had loosened up over time, whether it was because I didn't torque it down fully or it worked its way loose. I don't know which way or the other, but I'm going to venture on the first of those options, because when I got to it, the bolt had backed out quite a bit, and that's what was just pissing oil down onto, well, the front pulley and then through the whole belt system, everything. I'm doing an oil change while I'm at it, and as you can see, I had already pulled the hoses and coils and everything in preparation of pulling the valve cover and front timing cover when I found that loose bolt. So what I'm hoping is that was the issue, because I didn't really see, well, honestly it was hard to tell, but I didn't see any other gotchas. Like, all the rest of the bolts around the perimeter are tight, all the seal looked good, but again, that's hard to tell because it was so wet everywhere. As I mentioned before, even up in here was wet on the block, but that's could be just from the pulleys and belt just slinging oil all over the place. So I did what I could to clean everything up in here, and we'll get it reassembled, fill it back up with some oil, and hopefully it's going to stay dry enough that I can just take this for a little spin. Otherwise, I'll just fire it up in the driveway and let it idle and warm up and heat cycle, and we'll see what we come back with. Now, the second lesson is something I had done previously, and I don't know if I mentioned it on camera or not. But over here, I have my wall of oil change and brake, etc. supplies, and I try to keep everything kind of organized. So I have my Blackstone containers, some gas treatment from fighting with the Zero, but like oil filters, I label all of the filters for the cars. So for the Ultima, for the EP3, the Zero are back there, and I try to keep all of my oil and brake fluid and everything I need in stock, as in like in the garage, so that when it comes time to do an oil change, I don't have to venture to the store or anything first. I have everything ready to go. So that's just something that I've done that's really handy. And when you have a fleet, well, like this, or even if you just have one car, it's kind of nice to have everything on hand so you can do the job you set out to do right when you set out to do it. So just a little tip that I do in my garage that you might find for yours. All right, so I'm going to get the Zero put back together, get you guys back in the time lapse while I do that, And when it's ready to fire up and maybe go for a spin, I'll pull you back out and we'll take a look at the results. I left the nose cone off so we'd have better visibility, but let's fire her up and see if there's any leaks. All right, I'm gonna let that run for a little bit. I don't see any leaks. I don't see any spots on the ground. The weather's kinda iffy looking, so I don't know if I'll be able to take it for a quick spin or not, but I'm gonna let this idle out in the driveway as long as I can, let it warm up and heat cycle, and give it a couple of revs. And if I don't spot any leaks, I think we can call that done. So I'll come back in a sec, let this run through its course, and fingers crossed, that's fixed. Yep, I got that far. So, we're back in the garage. I think I found where the leak is though. Truth be told, it was leaking in more than one spot. I can show you up in the front here, bone dry. So this bolt was our leak in the front. That's the good news. I wouldn't really call it bad news, but there was a second leak, a smaller one, but there was still a leak over here underneath the starter where our, I guess you could say, oil plate. It's the former location of the oil filter, and it's where all of our oil lines go into the engine for the input and output of the oil system. So the oil cooler, the oil filter, all that stuff, where that goes into the block is underneath the starter. So I got to pull the starter, pull some stuff out of the way, and then I can show you what I think the issue is. Okay, with a couple of bolts, the starter comes out, and now we can see our problem child. So down here, it's kind of hard to manage the camera and the flashlight, so I'll do my best here. Down in this area, I have this little T-junction, and that is for our oil pressure gauge and an oil pressure sort of idiot light for the dash, as much good as that does. And these are both, I believe, like 1/4 inch NPT fittings. Those go into a brass T, which itself goes down into a 90-degree sort of fitting that goes into our adapter plate. And I think somewhere in here we have a leak. So our two fittings here are dry, but underneath the T seems to be dry. However, the bottom of our 90-degree adapter is wet, and I think that is where the leak is from on this plate. Now, to get to all this and really investigate, what I need to do is I can't pull that 90-degree and do anything about it until I pull these fittings, I pull this brass T adapter, I pull these dash 10 oil lines and their adapter fittings, and then, and only then, can I actually get to our 90-degree adapter, because it can't come out until all the rest of that stuff is out. Being that I just filled the engine with oil, this is going to be fun, and I'm going to have to drain the engine again and drain the lines because this whole thing is going to make a hell of a mess. So it's going to be a bit hard to film in this area. So I'm going to get everything off and then do my best to show you sort of where the leak is or was. All right, so a couple things going on here. So we have that little 90-degree out, and then I pulled our adapter fitting out so that I could get that out. You can see this little cardboard tray that I made to help minimize the mess, or rather direct the mess to the drain pan underneath the car. Although I didn't catch everything. There's some oil down in there, but I got most of it. So with that out, I'm pretty sure it was that little adapter, because as I was pulling out this piece, it rotated pretty easily, which means that this little guy was loose. Now, it didn't have the Teflon tape on it before, so what I'm hoping is that I can pop this back in, get it nice and tight, and then the Teflon tape will seal it, well, so that it doesn't leak. Then I can pop this guy back on. Everything else, all the other fittings looked dry. In fact, well, I mean, this one's a little wet because of where I pulled it off, but I'm going to hit these threads with some Teflon tape as well, just to cover all my bases. But the fittings for the sensors are dry as a bone. So I'm going to hit this guy, and hopefully that solves our oil leak issue. I'm going to get everything buttoned back up and come back once I have the car back in the driveway and circulating some oil, and we'll see if that fixed it. Yeah, I think that says everything. Well, I had planned to show you a successful video of the car running bone dry and not leaking. There's spot number 1. There's spot number 2. And there's the spot that I just made. I gotta clean that up. Bad news, good news, whatever you look at it, we sorted out 2 of the problems that we found. So, issue number 1, yes, was that loose bolt. And tightening that down, it doesn't leak. So that's dry. Issue number 2 was this little area over here, which I showed you, that little 90-degree and the junction with the sensors. That's all fixed now, and that's bone dry. I double checked it, and that's all good. However, what I should have done last time was actually check to see what was leaking while I had the car running. Now, I'm pretty sure I would have seen it leaking in 2 places, but this time, that spot on the driveway was only from about a minute or so of running, and it's the front main seal, which sucks, because I will have to pull the valve cover, and I'll have to set the timing, because you can't just pull the front main pulley. Since it's held on with a friction washer, when you set the timing, you have to make sure that the engine's at top dead center, and then pull the pulley off, fix the front main, and then put everything back together, retime the engine. So it's not the end of the world, but I do need to get a new front main seal because I don't think I have one. That's just how it goes sometimes. You fix one thing and you end up chasing resolution to the next, to the next, to the next. All of these things would have to be addressed, and I would need to address them, as I mentioned before selling the car on anyhow, because this is not something I want to pass on to the next owner, and I wouldn't feel right passing it on to the next owner. So I really do want a bone dry engine, 0 leaks, that runs reliably, and have a car that's just ready for fun. Lather, rinse, and repeat, and hopefully get it out for a test drive so we can see if A, runs dry, B, if we've solved all of the intake leaks, and C, if it's picked up some performance in the meantime. It was this one. this guy right here, that was loose. I had done that one. This one was hidden by the main crank pulley. Now that I got it off, that one was loose. So, yeah, remember what I said about master mechanics, mistakes, etc.? Yeah, it was me. I did it. Gonna button this back together and try it again. All right, here we go again. Forgot to wipe off after the last test. But as you can see, right under here, that's where those oil pressure sensors are, and so far, that looks pretty dry. Up here, right behind that crank pulley, that's where that bolt was loose. Again, another one. There was two of them there. One above the pulley and then one directly behind it. And so far, that's pretty dry. Let's give it a couple revs, get some oil pressure. Well, best laid plans and all that. As soon as I got the car buttoned up and ready to go, it started raining. I knew I was in a race against the weather because we do have a couple of storms coming in. Hopefully by next weekend, it'll be dry enough I can take the car out. But I did let the car sit and idle for probably a good 10 minutes, go through a full heat cycle, get the fans to kick on, etc. And during that time, there was no leaks under the car. Everything stayed dry as a bone. So I'm pretty confident that of all the things, it was the two bolts on the front cover, the ones right in the middle. And as a little side project, we fixed a minor leak that was at the back of the block where the oil pressure sensors sit. So that being done, I think we're good to get the car out for a drive. While I had everything apart, I did pull the plugs and just take a look at them, and it is still pretty rich. So once I take it onto the drive, if it feels rich still or if it's misfiring, it could be a rich misfire, and I might need to lean out the map a little bit. So we'll see. I think that's going to do it for reals this time. Sadly, we don't get the payoff with the drive, but that'll be coming soon enough. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.